Cusco. The name itself feels really old. It sits high up in the Andes Mountains, a city held by mountains that look like they touch the sky. This was the very center of the world for the Inca people. Their huge, strong empire grew from this exact spot, and right at its heart, its most special place was Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun. Just picture it. Not how it looks today, a place of stone and memories, but how it used to be. A group of buildings with walls covered in sheets of pure gold. They called it the Golden Enclosure. It was more than just a temple. It was the physical and spiritual middle of their universe, a place where the gods and the earth met in a super bright show of light. Inside this golden special place was the most important thing of all, the altar of the sun. This wasn't just a big rock for giving gifts, it was a pathway, a direct line to their most powerful god, Inti, the sun god. For the Inca, the sun was everything. It was life, it was warmth. It was where their power came from, the godlike ancestor of their kings. The altar was the spot where that sky power touched the earth. It was where the Sapa Inca, the emperor himself, would talk with his father, the sun. The whole city, the whole empire moved around this one special spot. It was the anchor of their world. Walking through Cusco today on this day, September 5th, 2025, you can still feel it. The energy is stuck in the stones. You see the amazing stonework of the Inca, stones put together so perfectly you can't even slip a knife blade between them. And then you see the Spanish buildings built right on top. It's a story of two worlds crashing together, but underneath it all, the foundations stay. The spirit of Coricancha lives on. The altar, even though it's changed, still talks about a time when an empire looked at the sky and saw not just a star, but a god, a father, where everything came from, and whose home on earth was right here. This place is super important. People from all over the empire came here, from the dry deserts by the coast to the Amazon jungles. They would travel for weeks, for months, just to be there. They brought gifts of the best cloth, the most precious shells, and the most detailed metalwork. All of it was to honor the sun. All of it went towards the altar. It was the empire's money storage, its holiest place, and its sky-watching spot, all in one. It was the golden heart of a civilization, beating with the rising and setting of the sun, the very soul of the Inca world. The Inca didn't just build a city in Cusco. They shaped the land itself to show how they saw the universe. Their world was orderly, it was balanced, and their main city had to be a perfect mirror of that divine order. They saw their world as having three levels of existence. The world above, Hanan Pacha, where the gods lived. This world, K Pacha, where humans lived. And the world below, Uku Pacha, the inside world of the dead and those not yet born. Cusco was where all three met, the center point, the spot from which everything else made sense, a place with deep spiritual power. Look at a map of the old city. The shape is clear. It was made in the form of a puma, a special animal, a sign of power, strength, and the earthly world. The head of this big stone cat was the fortress of Sacsayhuaman, its huge zigzag walls like the teeth of the animal looking down over the valley. The body was the city itself, a thick network of palaces, temples, and homes. And what was at the heart of this puma? Coricancha, the temple of the sun. It was the beating golden heart of this powerful creature, pumping life and spiritual energy throughout the whole empire. This design wasn't just for show, it was a statement of what they believed. It told everyone who arrived that they were entering a special place, where the natural world and the divine were woven together. The city was split into two halves, Hanan Cusco, upper, and Hurin Cusco, lower, showing a two-sidedness that was key to Andean thinking. Everything had its opposite, male and female, sun and moon, mountain and valley. The city's very layout was a constant reminder of this cosmic balance. It was a city built not just for people to live in, but for the gods to live in alongside them. A true earthly home for sky beings. From the central point of Coricancha, a system of invisible lines called Sikhs spread outwards, like the spokes of a giant wheel. Along these lines were more than 300 huacas, or sacred spots. These could be springs, rocks, caves, or man-made shrines. Each Sikh was taken care of by a specific family group who were in charge of the rituals at its huacas. This system organized the whole religious, social, and political setup. It tied every single person in the valley, every part of the land, directly back to the altar of the sun. It was a huge, complex web of belief, and the altar was the spider at its center. For the Inca, the sun was not a far-off, fiery ball. Inti was a divine being, a creator, a father. He was the source of all life, the one who made the crops grow and brought warmth to the high Andes. The Sapa Inca himself was believed to be a direct descendant, the son of the sun. This gave him his divine right to rule. So worshipping the sun was more than just religion. It was the base of their whole political and social system. Every day started with rituals honoring the sun's return, and every big event in life was marked by ceremonies for Inti. Life itself was a conversation with the sun. The altar of the sun was the main point of this conversation. It was here that the physical and spiritual worlds truly connected. Imagine the main room of Coricancha. The walls, as we know, were covered in gold, but at one end was a huge, solid gold disc. It was carefully carved with Inti's face, shown with a human face surrounded by bright rays. It was placed perfectly to catch the first light of the rising sun. As the dawn broke over the mountains, a beam of light would travel down the temple and hit this golden disc, filling the whole room with an almost too bright divine glow. It was as if the sun god himself had entered the temple. Daily life for the priests and priestesses who worked at Coricancha revolved around this altar. They did constant rituals, offering chicha, which is corn beer, coca leaves, and finely woven cloth. They burned special plants, their smoke carrying prayers up to the heavens. The most important ceremonies were led by the Vilak Umu, the high priest of the sun, often a close family member of the emperor. He was the main one who understood what the sun wanted, reading signs in the light and shadows, and how birds flew, and in the insides of sacrificed llamas. The altar was his special stage, the place where he explained the language of the gods to the people. This connection to the sun wasn't just an idea, it was super practical. The sun's position, tracked from the temple and its altar, controlled the farming calendar. It told them when to plant the potatoes and the corn. It told them when to harvest. The sun's journey across the sky was a clock and a calendar, a guide for living in the tough Andean environment. The altar of the sun, then, wasn't just a place to worship. It was the empire's master clock. It made sure the harvests would be good, the people would be fed, and the empire would do well. It was the ultimate guarantee of cosmic order and survival on Earth. The Inca were master stonemasons, but their skill was much more than just putting blocks together. They were sky-watching builders. They built their most special structures to be perfectly in tune with how the sun, moon, and stars moved. Coricancha is the best example of this. The whole temple complex was a precise tool made to catch and celebrate light. The main gate, the windows, the little spaces in the walls, none of it was random. Each part was lined up exactly to mark important sky events, turning the temple into a living calendar carved from stone. The altar itself was the heart of this sky machine. Its placement was no accident. It was put there to have a direct link with the solstices and equinoxes. During the June solstice, which is winter solstice in the southern hemisphere, the sun is at its furthest point from the earth. For the Inca, this was a moment of great worry. Would the sun come back? They held their most important festival, Inti Raymi, to beg the sun to return. At dawn on this day, a single exact beam of sunlight would shine through a special window or opening and light up the altar or the golden disc of Inti. This was the sign they were waiting for. The sun had heard their prayers. Think about the engineering involved, the math, the many years of patiently watching the sky. To build a wall, a window that will catch the sun perfectly on one specific day of the year, from a specific spot in the sky. It's amazing. The altar wasn't just a quiet stage for this light show. The stones themselves were often carved with little spaces and channels that seemed to guide the light to hold it. Certain stones around the altar were said to have special powers, acting like mirrors or markers. It was interactive architecture, made to choreograph a dance between stone and sunlight, between the earth and the heavens. This alignment wasn't just about the sun. Other parts of the Coricancha complex were for the moon, Venus, the stars, and even thunder and rainbows. There was a room covered in silver to honor the moon, the sun's wife. The Inca saw the universe as a family of gods, and their temple was a home for all of them. But the sun was the father figure. All the other alignments, all the other temples were less important than the main line of the sun, which ended at the altar. The building itself showed what they believed, that by understanding and copying the order of the universe, they could bring that same divine order to their empire on Earth. The year is 1533. Francisco Pizarro and his conquerors march into Cusco. They are few in number, but they bring with them steel, gunpowder, and, well, sickness. They see a city of wonders, but they don't see it with Inca eyes. They see money, they see gold, and Coricancha, the golden enclosure, is the biggest prize. The Spanish stories tell of their amazement. They talk about walls covered in gold, a garden where the plants, animals, and even the bugs were made of solid gold and silver. It was beyond their wildest dreams, and honestly, they showed it no mercy. The conquest was brutal and quick. The Sapa Inca Atahualpa was captured. He offered a ransom, a room filled once with gold and twice with silver. Much of this treasure was ripped from the walls and gardens of Coricancha. The great golden disc of Inti, the sacred face of the sun god, was taken. Legend says it was claimed by a conqueror named Mancio Serra de Leguizamon, who gambled it all away in one night of cards. The temple was systematically robbed. Its golden treasures were melted down into bars and sent back to Spain to pay for the wars of a far-off king who would never understand what he had destroyed. Once the gold was gone, the Spanish tried to erase the religion itself. They were driven by a strong desire to replace paganism with Christianity. What better way to show their god's power than to build his house right on top of the most sacred shrine of the Inca? The Dominican order was given the Coricancha site. They tore down many of the Inca structures, using the stones for their own new church, the convent of Santo Domingo. They built their altar where the altar of the sun had once stood. It was a powerful physical statement: our God has beaten yours. The shadow of the cross fell over the temple of the sun, but the Inca built to last. The Spanish, for all their destructive power, could not copy the amazing quality of Inca stonework. While their own buildings crumbled in Cusco's frequent earthquakes, the Inca foundations held strong. In 1950, a huge earthquake destroyed parts of the city. The Church of Santo Domingo was badly damaged, but as its walls fell away, they showed the perfectly preserved, incredibly strong stone walls of Coricancha underneath. The temple had lasted. The altar's foundations, the sacred stones that had once channeled the light of the sun, were still there. They had simply been waiting. Places like Coricancha don't exist for hundreds of years without gathering stories. The wind that blows through the high mountain passes of the Andes carries whispers, legends of the altar's power that have been passed down through families. One of the most lasting tales talks about the altar not just as a place to worship, but as a doorway, a portal. It was said that the Sapa Inca, in a deep ritual state, could use the altar to travel to the world of the gods, to speak directly with Inti and the spirits of his ancestors. The light that hit the altar on the solstice wasn't just light, it was a bridge between worlds. Another legend is about the treasures that were not found. The Spanish took an unbelievable amount of gold, but the stories insist that it was only a small part of what was there. When news of the Spanish betrayal and the killing of Atahualpa reached Cusco, the priests of Coricancha acted quickly. They are said to have gathered the most sacred objects, including other golden discs and statues, and hidden them. Some say they were taken to a secret city deep in the jungle, to Paititi, the lost city of gold. Others believe they were hidden in a network of tunnels that runs under Cusco, a secret world you can only get to through hidden entrances inside the temple itself. These tunnels are a repeated theme. The stories describe a huge underground maze, its entrance somewhere near the original altar. They say this network connects Coricancha to other important places, like the fortress of Sexaywaman. It was a secret path for the Inca nobles and priests to move unseen, and a final hiding place for their sacred knowledge in dangerous times. While archaeologists have found some small rooms and passages, the grand mythical maze remains hard to find. But the story continues, a powerful symbol of a hidden world, a deeper truth lying just beneath the surface of today. The altar is also said to have a healing power. The light it gathered was believed to be pure, life-giving energy. People would come to be bathed in its reflected glow, to be cleaned of sickness and spiritual problems. Shamans and mystics today still see the site as a place of huge energy, a chakra point for the whole continent. They believe the stones of the altar soaked up centuries of sun power and prayer, and that this energy can still be felt. Whether you believe in portals and lost cities or not, these legends tell us something deep about how the Inca saw this place, not just as stone and gold, but as a living, breathing center of cosmic power. The Spanish banned the festival of Inti Raymi. They saw it as a pagan ritual that got in the way of converting people. For hundreds of years, the celebration went underground. It was practiced in secret, in far-off villages, a quiet act of cultural resistance. The memory of the sun god was kept alive in whispers, in hidden ceremonies, away from the watchful eyes of the authorities. The grand public show that had once united the empire seemed lost forever, a leftover from a conquered past. But a culture's most powerful ideas can never truly be put out. They simply wait for the sun to return. In the mid-20th century, a group of artists and thinkers in Cusco decided to bring it back. They were part of a movement to get back and celebrate their native heritage. They looked through old writings, putting together descriptions of the original festival. In 1944, the first modern Inti Raymi was put on. It was a theatrical reenactment, a powerful statement of cultural pride. It began at Coricancha, the right starting point. An actor playing the Sapa Inca would come out, calling on the power of the sun from the ancient walls, just as his ancestors had done. The festival was reborn. Today, Inti Raymi is the most important festival in Cusco's calendar. It happens every year on June 24th, close to the winter solstice. It's a huge, amazing event bringing thousands of visitors from all over the world. The celebration begins in the morning at Coricancha. A parade then moves through the city to the main square, the Plaza de Armas, the ancient Haucaipada, where the Inca held their ceremonies. The final and most dramatic part of the festival takes place at the fortress of Sacsayhuaman, the head of the Puma. Hundreds of actors dressed in fancy, colorful costumes act out the ancient rituals. The modern festival connects the past to the present in a living, breathing way. It's a bridge across time. The language spoken is Quechua, the language of the Inca. The Sapa Inca gives a speech, offers a toast of chicha to the sun, and a symbolic llama sacrifice is performed to guess the coming year's luck. For the people of Cusco and the areas around it, it is much more than a show for tourists. It is a deep affirmation of who they are. It is a way of honoring their ancestors and keeping their connection to the sun, the earth, and the old ways alive. The spirit of the altar lives on in this joyful, defiant celebration. So what does the altar of the sun mean to us now, on this day in the 21st century? It stands as a powerful symbol of lasting strength. It has survived conquest, cultural destruction, and the damage of time and earthquakes. The gold is gone, the temple is half hidden, but the stones remain, and the sun still rises. The sun still hits those ancient walls. The altar's survival teaches us that what is built with meaning, with a deep connection to the universe, has a strength that outlasts empires and ideas. It shows how strong a people and their beliefs can be. The altar is also a monument to memory. It reminds us of a different way of seeing the world. A world where the city is a puma, where lines of spiritual energy connect every rock and spring to a sacred center, and where the sun is a divine ancestor. In our modern, non-religious world, it's easy to just call this superstition, but doing that means missing the point. The Inca built a society based on a deep sense of connection to the land, to the sky, and to each other. The altar was the heart of that connection. It makes us think about what is at the heart of our own world. The story of the altar is a story of light and shadow. The bright light of the sun, caught and celebrated by the Inca, and the dark shadow of conquest that tried to put it out. But shadows can only exist where there is light. The shadow cast by the Spanish church only helps to show how strong the Inca foundations underneath are. It teaches us that history is not a simple story of one thing replacing another. It is a complex layering of ideas where the past is never truly gone. It continues to shape the present, sometimes in ways you can see, sometimes as an energy you can just feel. In the end, the altar of the sun talks about a basic human search, the search for our place in the universe, the need to feel connected to something bigger than ourselves. The Inca found that connection in the sun. They used stone and light to build a bridge to the universe. Standing at Coricancha today, you can feel that ancient ambition. You look at how precise the stones are. You feel the warmth of the Andean sun on your face. And you understand. The altar is more than just history. It's an echo across time, reminding us to look up, to pay attention to the light, and to wonder about our own connection to the vast, beautiful mystery of the universe.